It obviously back on the road here, 3 of our next 4, but obviously first up here at Wisconsin. So getting ready for those guys here and heading out today.
At Wisconsin, home against Purdue, you're not going to enter a game with this mindset, but I'm sure a lot of people outside, are looking at those games not expecting you guys to win them. Is there anything freeing about that, sort of that playing with nothing to lose, or does it change nothing in terms of your mentality?
Yeah, no, I think I'd be interested to ask our players that. I think the reality is, I think that can be a help at times, but you're really just focused on learning from what we did in the Wisconsin game good that we can do better, and maybe where there's some things we need to tweak or change going into that, and then after that tackling this Purdue team and trying to figure out the best way to put a game plan in for those guys. So 2 terrific teams. I know Wisconsin's had some bumps in the road here with playing 3. I think they've played 3 out of 4 on the road too, and then their one home game was Purdue. So I know they'll certainly be hungry. We're hungry, and should be a great atmosphere there.
What do you think this team has learned from this, this tough road stretch you guys have had, this road losing streak, and maybe can apply and make things different, tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't know if it's anything other than what we talked about before. I didn't sense that we played with a lack of poise, at Iowa, but I think we did at Northwestern. So we made some, I think, improvements there. But on the road, you've got to do what you do. You got to do it at a better level, at a higher level, because the home team is going to be operating at a higher level. So that's, I think, the biggest thing for our kids to take from these last couple opportunities.
Is that where the way you played against Maryland could maybe follow you on the road, given that different opponents, different profiles, and all that? But you talk about just focusing on the things that you do well, to show that toughness and to show ways to close that game out. Are those things? Can you replicate those more?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, and I hope that we can take some of the things we did there, particularly late in the last 15 minutes of the game, where it was back and forth, and at times didn't look good. I thought our guys played with tremendous offensive poise there. To be down 3, to have that possession that was just a terrific possession by our guys, where the Roddy kicked it to Bruce, showed great poise, great maturity. You're going to need that in bunches on the road when there's the crowd, but you need it at home too. So hopefully we can take those moments where we just played, and we played it with an aggressiveness that I think we lacked a little bit against Indiana, and hopefully that can help us here moving forward.
You guys have had opportunities where you've had a 3 that could maybe tie it, send it to overtime, win, and they just haven't fallen. And it seemed like that Bruce 3 was the first one, maybe of the season, that has fallen. It's easy to make too much of one shot, one game, whatever. But how important was a shot like that to show that in a crucial situation, someone can hit a 3?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to emphasize as much as anything is just keep taking those good ones. Like the one Jameson had to win it. I could have won it actually. Was a good look. The one he had in regulation, I believe it was regulation, off of transition, where he shot faked and sidestepped to his right, was a great look. So I think as much as anything, we're trying to just emphasize keep taking those, because those are the right plays at that moment, and play fearless in those moments and just keep taking them.
We hear about in all sports, you go on the road, it's just you and your team, and how that can be kind of rallying. Obviously, you guys have done this plenty of times this year, but coming off a win, do you think that kind of mentality, similar to Andy's question, but that kind of us against the world mentality even more can help in some of these road games, not just tomorrow, but down the line? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we've got some obviously really, really challenging road games coming up, where we're going to get tested at a high level, whether it's, you just look at these remaining road games. But yeah, we'll see what the mentality and the fight of our kids are. I think that's what we're all anxious to see. What is our fight, our poise, our mentality, our togetherness in those environments that we're going to face.
I think it's pretty clear if you get Jameson, Roddy, and Bruce all going in a game, you guys have a pretty good shot of winning, right? What are the conversations? What does it take? Because it hasn't been consistent that all three have had on nights.
Right.
And I don't just necessarily mean they're all scoring, but kind of
Yeah.
all the things that contribute. How do you kind of get the three of them maybe going together?
Well, I think it's that, but I also think we need some other guys to help in that regard. The focus for the other team can't just be on those three guys. They're going to command a lot of attention regardless. That's where, Evan making a three the other day was important for us. Maybe Evan getting in double figures, Felix helping us like he did maybe against Iowa where he was able to get the double figures. You're going to need other guys to be able to step up, a Devin, just other guys to be able to step up. Because I don't know that it can be just those three guys. Maybe late there's a focus around those three guys, but throughout the course of the game, we're going to need more from more guys.
Chris, on the radio, you talked about how Felix needs to get his hands up more, not foul as much. How has he responded to the last couple of games? Dealing with foul trouble when that really was not an issue most of the season.
It wasn't. I think we just got to keep working through film with him, showing him, and he's got to play with more discipline. Yeah, because he had done a really good job not getting into foul trouble. He's got to play with more discipline, and he knows that. He's such a great kid, and he wants to do well. He knows that. He's young. He's got to get better at that. He's got to get better, playing with more discipline, one-on-one, and also he's gotten some fouls as a secondary defender where he didn't need to. He turned his body a couple times where he could have been vertical and not gotten a foul call.
And then with Evan, it seems like he's kind of evolved his offensive game as the season's gone on, just more aggressive.
Yeah.
Even when he's not making shots, just getting in the hole. You mentioned the time and space three he had. What have you seen from his game in terms of, on that end of the court, helping you guys out?
Well, I love how much better he's gotten and going to continue to get. You got 4 sophomores in the starting lineup, and I think they all have a fair amount of upside. But he's got he's got high upside, as does a guy like Devin Royal and other guys. But I think he's gotten really better offensively. I do want him to take some time in space threes, and I think for him, he's just in a really good, confident offensive rhythm right now. Our challenge for him is I think he needs to be better defensively in some areas, and that's what our focus has been with him.
Chris, how do you rest your guys and appropriately handle practice after such a long game? It took a lot of energy out of your guys.
Yeah, we did, a lighter, it's such a quick turnaround, so you're balancing that with not, force feeding too much information just today. So we did need to get some things done yesterday, and we did that. I think we got some things done yesterday in terms of game plan prep. But certainly I was aware of the amount of wear and tear on their legs after a double overtime game.
And you talked about aggressiveness, but also discipline. How do you coach that? Because it seems like they were very aggressive down the stretch on Saturday, but at times that also led to a lot of whistles.
Yeah, I think defensively we got to play with better technique. We got to play with better technique, and they did some good things late as well. Maryland, that is, to make it difficult for us. We just got to play with better technique. I thought Roddy did a phenomenal job not fouling, but we got to play with that better technique. But I did really like our poise and aggressiveness offensively in the last 15 minutes.
The first game you guys played against Wisconsin, Gale and Thornton both seemed like they struggled a little bit. Just what was Wisconsin able to do with those matchups, and how can you help them kind of overcome that, I suppose, and play their best game this time around?
Yeah, I think they're really good defensively, as you know, Steve, and they just after watching it, I thought we got some decent looks. We had some plays there where I think Bruce might have missed a couple front ends of one-on-ones there, which he's going to make more than not. Roddy had an open three on a semi-transition, but it was wide open late. That if you just make a couple of those, I'm fine with him taking. But I think we've got to figure out some ways we can maybe free those guys up, and I think at times, if we look at a lineup where the floor is a little bit more open, that might help those guys. So potentially playing some lineups where there's just a little more space on the floor.
Scotty Middleton, it felt like a couple months ago he was starting to get into a rhythm where he could help you 10, 12, 14 minutes a game, whatever. And he's missed a couple games here in January, injury, whatever else, and didn't play a whole lot there the other day. Just where's he at, and how can he kind of get back into the flow? Because it feels like if you got just a little bit more help here down the stretch, how big it would be.
It would be big. I do think having another perimeter, whether that's Scotty, along with Dale, whether that's Scotty or Bowen, to give us some shooting, and Scotty's a terrific defender. I think you just got to work through the ups and downs of a freshman, and we got to try to help him with that. But I agree with having another guy or two, Dale and one of those guys. They could provide some scoring for us, and shooting is going to be really important for us down the stretch.
Chris, so you were so excited to get to work on Sunday, you couldn't keep your foot off the gas pedal?
Saturday.
I heard?
Yeah, Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday. Saturday morning. Yeah, Saturday morning. You got me pretty good. And I deserved it. So I was anxious to get into work and watch a couple more hours of film. And so I had no idea how fast I was driving.
You'll have to explain that to me one day. I'm never in that much of a hurry to get to work. But what were you, besides the film? I guess I thought you had said Sunday, but so what was the day at work like yesterday after you saw the win and you got to feel that for your guys? And that you could just tell, and it felt, I don't know if you agree, it felt like your team was going to win that game. Maybe that's because the lead wasn't dwindling. You actually made up a 10-point deficit, and they seemed way more locked into everybody, I'm sure, to you guys in the second half.
Yeah. No, I think it was good. It's always better after a win, but I would also say you're as a coach, you're really trying to focus on learning from that game as well, learning on what we can do better. But you also, we had a good time watching some of the clips in the film, and those guys celebrating. Those always moments you want your guys to kind of enjoy. But you feel the pressure as a coach to, okay, especially with the quick turnaround, let's make sure we're learning from some of these things here and keep growing and improving, because I do think we've seen some growth in these guys, as hard as the Indiana game was or whatever. I think we've seen some growth, and that's just the biggest focus for us right now.
Finish up with Patrick and then
You were saying, you said this to us before, but the lack of Saturday games, and that you talked to the Big Ten, what are those conversations like? What feedback do you get when you try and?
They're trying to, they'll tell you that every coach would prefer that, every administration would prefer that. Gene and I both put a call in the off season before the new schedule was put out, and because last year we had hardly any. So Saturday games / weekend games. Saturday would be the preference, but / weekend games. It's just a different vibe everywhere on every campus. It's just a different, but certainly different here. You saw the energy of the crowd on Saturday. It's just different. So yeah, they've been receptive. The office does a really good job in terms of scheduling, and they listen to you even when you're not particularly happy. They listen to you, and that's always appreciated.
You mentioned Wisconsin's recent struggles. How do you anticipate them coming out of the gates tomorrow night back on their home court?
Hungry, like everybody, anytime this year. They're a proud group. They're, I think the thing of them, they're obviously really old. They added an impact transfer, as we all know, and he's a really good player. But they're really old, and they are a really proud group. And Wall's been one of my, favorite players to compete against, just because of his competitive spirit is just phenomenal. He's an absolute warrior. So they're going to come out hungry. I think our group will come out hungry, and we'll go from there.
Adam,
Adam.
If you don't mind. I'm not sure if you expected Dale to play the most that he played all season. When a game goes on like that, and you're kind of feeling that stuff out, like what is that like in a game, kind of evaluating, saying, all right, well, he only played a couple minutes last game, we're going to go to him for 30 this game.
Yeah. it was a combination of foul trouble and then wanting to maybe look at some closing lineups, as we've talked about, that were maybe a little bit different. So it's a combination of those two things. But I'll just say that Dale's approach in practice has been good. His attitude for a couple weeks now has been good. And that's given me a lot of confidence as a coach to be able to play him.
And then the way, obviously Klesmit's a very different player
Yeah.
than Jameer Young, but the way that Roddy was able to guard Jameer and frustrate him in some ways, are things that he did in that matchup replicable as you go play the Klesmit, given that they're different players?
They have two really good wings, so that's what makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Because they've got three really good guards. They start with three really good guards. So figuring out the matchups is something we're working on, but it's hard to put him just on one guy because they've got a really talented group.
Or I guess I just mean in general, maybe not specifically Klesmit, but him being able to guard somebody, like the defensive confidence he must take from a matchup like that.
Yeah.
Is that replicable no matter who he's playing?
It is, and he's just got to accept that challenge, and I've got to be able to give him more breaks throughout the game, Adam, because he can wear down pretty quickly after like 3.5 or 4 minutes, so I've got to be able to get him some spells because of the load he's carrying there.
Thanks, Chris.